Hello and welcome to an exciting new day on the channel. We're going to be coming at you guys with two particularly twisted tales of ProRevenge. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here on the channel, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do though, you know what to do. I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like and also subscribe with notifications turned on so you can stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. Seriously upcharged a guy that upcharged my parents. My parents were renovating their house about a year ago and they needed an electrician to move some lighting fixtures. Generally, I have a friend that's my go-to electrician for stuff like this, but my parents had hired a guy to paint the living room and needed this done quickly. My electrician friend happened to be on vacation, so he wouldn't be able to get out to me until after the painter was already scheduled to come. After referring with a couple of my other friends, they recommend an electrician. We're all from the same country and happen to emigrate from the small town, so many people within our culture generally recommend other people from that same country. Also, I hope you guys are just going to ignore how I said country the first time. The electrician comes by for a quote. I've never met this individual, and he tells my parents that it's all based on the amount of time it would take and that he can't give them an exact quote because he doesn't know how much time it's going to take until the job is already started. My parents think this sounds reasonable and end up hiring him. Just as an aside, I installed Nest cameras for my parents in their living room facing their front door, so we had a good view of the area where the job was being performed. This job takes him about an hour, and he literally sat on my couch on his phone for about 5 hours watching TV, kicking his feet up, waiting for my mom to get home so that he could show her the work is complete, and charge her like 6 hours for a job that took him about an hour, which I confirmed how unprofessional his behavior was on my Nest cam. My parents didn't want to cause any friction, so they paid him for the amount of time he charged them. I believe it was like $500 for something that really should have cost like $150 or so. Anyway, the lighting fixtures were installed. He received his check and went on his merry way. My electrician friend later confirmed that this guy had seriously upcharged my parents. A few months later, I decided to take a side gig selling solar as a 1099 employee. I was making decent money at my existing job, but I had a wide enough network where I could help people around me with generally good solar deals and make some good money for myself on the side. The company I connected with would give me my price on panels including installation, as well as on the roof if a roofing job was required. The price was extremely good, and the way I made my money was by tacking on my fee at the end, built into the roof price and the per watt price of the panels, plus installation. Much like my parents found the electrician, this same electrician, who I had never met, found me, inquiring about a roofing job. I told him that I don't do standalone roofs, but that I could package something for him including solar which would get rid of most of his electricity bill. He said he didn't have the money up front for the roof or the panels, which is fine because we can finance it, and it started to sound like he was a little bit desperate as his roof was leaking and he didn't have the capital to fix it. Generally, when I go to a client, I try to keep the price down and make it more desirable for the client. I'd rather make less money than no money, so I generally make around $3,000 to $5,000 per install, which is a win-win. When I got the call, I thought the guy's name was familiar, and sure enough, it was the electrician who had helped my parents and left a bad taste in my mouth. At this point, I knew he was desperate for a resolution to his roof issue, and I knew he barely spoke any English, so my word was going to be gold. I set up an appointment to go meet with him about a week in. I knew that I was going to upcharge the shit out of him due to the language barrier he would have with other installers, his desperation, and the fact that he upcharged my parents. I got the price quote from the installer that said the roof would cost about $10K for a strip and re-roof. This was generally good as the house was a multi-family unit and I was expecting the quote to come around $15K. They also gave me the price on the solar panels, which would be around $15,000. So the price I was looking at for the project was $25K. Generally, on a good situation like this, I might have called in $29,000 total. Got him a spectacular deal, make a couple grand, and called it a day. But I was thinking, oh, this guy. Pretty sure I can curse once, but I'm gonna have to reverse the rest. So I adjusted the cost of the roof to $19,000 and the price of the panels to $21,000, half expecting that I would eventually need to come down on the pricing at some point. I went over there to meet up with him, proposed his setup, told him how good the quality of the roofing job would be, which is accurate, and that the solar system would virtually wipe out his electricity bill, and that I would get him set up with a 25-year loan to keep his monthly payment down. He agreed to this, was excited to get his roof done, and really didn't care much about the panels. But they were part of the bundle, and on we went. Once everything was installed, I was paid out on my deal and went to cash my $15,000 check. I went to my parents' house and gave them $1,500 each, and explained to them what had happened and how I stumbled upon a $15K commission check. Just so it's clear, there is nothing shady about what I did. It was way more expensive than it needed to be, and everything was disclosed to him properly. He just paid more than he would have had to, even if he simply shopped around. But at the end of the day, it's well within my rights to charge whatever I want. Like it's within the rights of the customer to tell me to F off. A big chunk of what he paid is covered by incentives, but he still paid way more than typical. Moral of the story, especially for contractors, plumbers, electricians, and mechanics, don't F people over because you're more aware of how things work than they are in a particular field, because you might end up getting F'd over later, tenfold. TLDR, electrician upcharged my parents by a couple $100. I upcharged him by about $10,000. Edit 2. I'm getting kinda bothered by people essentially calling me a POS. I don't believe I did anything wrong here. He pretended to work longer than he actually did. I have had no contact with this person. My parents didn't want to be confrontational, so they paid him. In a separate event, he reached out to me for a service I provide. I have freedom to set my own pricing on this service. I provided him with a quote for said service. The service was provided in great working condition, and it's warranted for 25 years against anything that may occur. He wasn't forced to agree to this. He wasn't coerced or threatened. He simply agreed because he saw the value in it. I know that I overcharged him, and plenty of solar salespeople overcharge if customers are willing to pay because a big chunk of the money is provided through governmental incentives. He still has a brand new roof with an architectural shingles and has a brand new solar system. You people that are going out of your way to question my character on ProRevenge need to seriously get off your moral high horses. Edit 3. So what I've learned is that some people really hate my behavior and others are just interested in solar. BTW, thanks for the plat. Final edit. I appreciate the support of everyone that upvoted and stood up for me against some of the delusional critics. Also, I'm glad to see some people have genuine curiosity around solar panels. No matter who sells it to you or if you do it yourself, regardless of what some internet trolls think of my character, I'm at peace with myself. Some of you effers are embarrassing though. It's like you'd high-five a guy that just got finished plowing your wife. I know plenty of people that would have just kicked that electrician's teeth in, so in some ways, he got off easy. Management tries to fire me. I turn the tables. Redux. I'm not sure why, but my previous post was deleted. At the request of the others, I'm reposting it. This story is totally true. I think I still even have some of the certificates of appreciation in storage. I'm not sure why some find it so unbelievable that a person wouldn't keep files and act professional. I have no reason to lie. I just wanted to share a true account of how I was almost fired and turn the tables on a bad supervisor and manager. I had a manager try to fire me for being rude to a caller. The caller wanted us to call internationally to confirm insurance. I asked the current floor supervisor if we could, and he said no. So I told the caller we couldn't. She ended the call, and I went to ask the supervisor if there was anything we could do and was told we could not. I asked him to email that answer to me, and he did. I got called and was told that I was unprofessional on the phones and that I was not following correct procedures, and that I was being investigated with consideration that I would be fired. My supervisor had no spine, so was in agreement that I needed to be fired. I was told we do not ever tell a member no, and that she had spoken with the supervisor who told me to say no, and he denied it and claimed I never asked him. Luckily, I had 3 years of weekly emails I saved and printed out that showed me every Thursday asking my supervisor if it was okay on the phones, how I could improve, and if there were any classes I could take to improve my skill and knowledge. Every reply was praise with how well I was doing, how I was being considered as or doing well as a trainer. I became one after a year, and had reviews of my work attached. Every single QA review gave me 100% scores, and I was the only one on the whole team who consistently got 100% reviews. I also had a large file full of customer compliments, where they asked me to speak with a supervisor to praise my work, and then I'm given a certificate. Also, I included the email from the supervisor who instructed me to say no. I quietly put this all together in an inch-thick file and made 3 copies. I was called back to discuss my reprehensible behavior and to review calls I had made as evidence of my bad service. As we listened, the manager pointed out how cold and emotionless I sounded. I agreed that it could have been taken this way if one were to look for a problem, but my phone voice is always calm and careful so that I'm easily understood. I've been told how much it's appreciated by our callers since we mostly deal with the elderly in doctors' offices, and they appreciated that my information was clearly presented, since misunderstandings can be very bad. I had customer compliments that often included appreciation for the way I spoke. 3 out of the 5 calls we reviewed, she said, were the worst interactions she had ever heard. I said that was odd since I had a certificate for all 3 calls signed by my supervisor and her, and certificates that weren't given out until the call was listened to. The other 2 problematic calls were ones where I had received a 100% score by the QA department. So I asked, well, my supervising is telling me that I'm weekly doing the best on the team. The QA department is telling me I'm always meeting 100% of my goals. And the customers are giving me positive reviews. So, if my attitude has been such a problem for so long, why wasn't it addressed before? No answer. I demanded to know why this issue was allowed to continue for so long. The manager asked me to return to my desk, but asked that I leave my folder of evidence for review, which I did. I went to lunch, and when I returned, I was told there was a computer error that wiped my email profile and all saved emails from my email account, and my computer had been reformatted to fix the error. I asked supervisor about it, and she said she needed to talk to the manager. I was called in again and told that without any evidence to back up my claims of 100% QA scores and my customer appreciation certificates, they had no choice but to move forward. I asked where my printed copy went to, and manager claimed she didn't have it and that I had never given her a copy. So I pulled out another copy of all the paperwork and explained that deleting it off my computer didn't delete my copies, nor the copies she had no access to on the company cloud, which is where I backed up my information daily. Something that was so uncommon the supervisor didn't even know it was something we could do. I then asked for an HR representative, and manager said I waived my right to having an HR rep present when I didn't ask for one at the start of this mess. I said the matter should be put to rest, and the manager said she was the one who decided this, as she was the one in charge. She also handed me a write-up and demanded I sign it. I took the time to read it, and of course it had me admitting that I was 100% at fault and that I would not retaliate in the slightest regard of action. It wasn't even on the company's disciplinary form. It was written in Word. I was done. I decided to just go with the nuclear option. Instead of quietly trying to talk to HR, I went far above their heads. I grabbed the write-up and walked out. Manager went to stop me until she saw me walk into the office of the director of all the call centers in the company, a guy who was magnitudes above her and who I was on friendly terms with. He asked what was up, and I told him that the manager was in the process of trying to fire me. I give him the write-up and my folder of evidence, and he went from friendly disinterest to dead serious. 30 minutes later, he finished reviewing everything and said, "Follow me." We returned to the manager's office, and she turned white when the director told manager to call in supervisor and HR. He kept asking her what she was trying to do, why she was going after me, and why she felt it was okay to try and delete evidence from my computer. He never yelled. He would ask her a question and then patiently wait for an answer, which she couldn't give. Whenever she would bring me up or look at me, director would say something like, "No, don't look at him. You and I are talking right now." When supervisor arrived, he did the same to her. No answers, just stammering and half excuses. HR arrived and manager jumped to speak over me to give her side. Supervisor did the same once manager was done. They were clearly trying to run out the clock since HR was a small department and had blocked out time for meetings. I finally mentioned this and the HR person said they had canceled all other meetings today and she would be there as long as it took to get to the bottom of the issue. Manager looked enraged. Supervisor looked pale and terrified. I was then taken to a separate office to give my side. Manager said she had the right to be there and the director told her and supervisor that they had the right to sit there and wait. Both were told that they were not allowed to leave until they were told they could, because both were known to disappear and go home if any problems happened on the floor. HR, director, and I had a nice chat. We went over my evidence and call history, listened to the call that started the whole landslide, and then asked if there was anything I think I could have done better. I said that I could have asked a different supervisor for help. I used the HR person's laptop to pull up my stuff I had saved on the cloud, and there it was. Document after document, proving my side. Emails from supervisor, emails from manager, all praising me, proof of my 100% QAs, everything. Director was almost gleeful that he finally had something concrete because there had been complaints about the manager and supervisor, but those complaining never did anything. He called the QA manager in and got a statement about my QA scores and how I was professional 100% of the time, and pulled in supervisors from other teams who confirmed I was a pleasure to work with and always went above and beyond to help. It felt pretty good to know I was actually appreciated by people who matter. You don't get that often in a call center environment. They agreed I had done nothing wrong and asked that as far as they were concerned, the matter was closed for me. But they would be looking into manager and supervisor. They couldn't tell me anything officially, of course. Manager and supervisor got official disciplinary actions with threat to terminate if they were caught doing this again. Ever. The supervisor was demoted and transferred out of the department completely. I heard that it basically ruined her career with the company since the actions were so serious. Manager ended up moving to a different office at a lower pay and about 40 minutes farther from her home because her actions against me opened the floodgates against her and she could be fired or take the far worse position. She ended up quitting after about a month. Why did supervisor and manager decide they hate me? I don't know exactly what caused it, but apparently they had problems with me for a couple years, and would talk to other employees about me behind my back about what a lazy and bad employee I was. Of course, some people agreed, that's the nature of the beast, but it was rewarding to know that most of them disagree. Keep your paper trail, folks, and be friendly with upper management. And there you have it, folks, 2 of the top stories from today's ProRevenge subreddit. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like on the video and also subscribe so you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.